This is a series of 100 films about Japanese foods that I've eaten, and this is a film about Portuguese deep-fried delights. One of the things most commonly associated with Japanese cuisine is tempura. Originally, it didn't actually come from Japan, it came from Portugal.
Back in the day, when Japan was completely isolated from the world, well, it wasn't completely isolated, that's the thing. There was one place in Japan, Nagasaki, where foreigners could actually go and trade goods, and except for the Dutch and the Portuguese, almost nobody else stopped there.
So for hundreds of years, this was Japan's connection to the outside world. In Nagasaki, even today, and you barely notice it, the fort is still there. That was the only place foreigners could go. Itsumo. And it was the place where the first English teacher in Japan lived, a man from Canada with the last name McDonald. In Nagasaki, there's a plaque commemorating him.
And one of the things about foreigners that they brought 400 years ago was tempura batter. The first recipes came from Portuguese sailors, and it's one of the few foods that actually travels exceptionally well between countries.
And one of the biggest problems with Japanese food outside of Japan is that you just can't get the same ingredients. And the way things are prepared, they're just different from what you get in Japan. When you get Japanese food at restaurants abroad, it feels like you're eating something cooked by people who've never even eaten it before. Itsumo. So not a surprise, since overseas Japanese restaurants are often owned by people from Korea or China. Fortunately, tempura is just as good overseas as it is in Japan.
Tempura, if you've never heard of it, is meat, seafood, or vegetables deep fried in tempura batter. And you can buy the tempura batter in a grocery store. All you need is a deep fat fryer and you're ready to go. And usually it's served with a bowl of rice and some pickles and a little plate of tempura sauce for you to dip into, just to add a bit of flavor.
And tempura can be added as a topping to almost anything. There's tendon, which is basically tempura on rice. And often tempura is paired with cold soba noodles. It can be cheap or it can be expensive, but generally speaking, it's pretty consistent. It's also sold pre-made in Japanese supermarkets, and there's a whole section, like a deli, of pre-cooked tempura made that day.
At home, you make some rice and microwave the tempura, and you're ready to go. And maybe pair it with some miso soup, and there you had dinner, basically.
Now, tempura comes in many flavors, and I just like to go over the top 6 items made into tempura, and this is based on surveys of what Japanese people like. So here's a list of my top 6 tempura types. Number 6, shrimp. This is the deep-fried giant pink tiger shrimp, very common in Asian cooking. It's huge, about 4 to 5 inches long. It's very thick, and it actually tastes great when it's covered in tempura. The shape itself allows the batter to cling very nicely. Number 5, ika. The squid is cut into long strips, breaded and deep fried. Breaded calamari tastes good in bars, and squid tempura in Japan is no exception. One thing to look out for, though, is that it's usually cut lengthwise, so you might mistake it for a vegetable. In a way, it kind of resembles the tube version of onion rings. Number 4, pumpkin and sweet potato. Basically, the pumpkin is orange, and when it's deep fried, it's very soft, shaped almost like an apple slice. Sweet potato is also orange, except it tends to be more round, almost like a gingerbread cookie dipped in batter. Number 3, broccoli. The lack of a uniform shape makes broccoli the hardest one to actually get the batter to stick to, but it's still one of my favorites. Number 2, eggplant, or nasu. It's purple, and when it's deep fried, it has a tender texture, almost meaty. Its shape is good for the batter clinging onto it. And finally, number 1, kakiage. It's shredded vegetables that are placed in tempura and deep fried. Almost like a tempura hamburger, except there's no meat in it. It's light and airy, filled with airy spaces because it's just slices of carrot, cucumber, zucchini, and daikon interwoven. And they often serve it with udon on top of udon or ramen. It's crunchy and tasty. And that's it. That's Japan's favorite tempura. The word of the day. The word of the day is itsumo. It means always in Japanese. As always, feel free to watch this film 10 more times and repeat along with me if you want to remember this word. Next time. So that's it until next time when we look at how to eat like European royalty in Tokyo. So until then, sayonara.